So there is a small part of the tribulation, and some wonder, how long will this be? This is a time when people are making their final decisions. God's people are going to be preaching the truth. The beast power is going to begin trying to strengthen its coalition to persecute. And the small time of trouble, we're not sure. Some suspect it may be similar to other times of trouble that have come upon God's people that have been about 3.5 years. Now that time period comes up many times in the Bible. Look in James chapter 5:17. Elijah was a man subject to like passions as we are, and he prayed earnestly that it might not rain, and it rained not on the earth by the space of 3 years and 6 months. 3.5 years during the time when Elijah was being persecuted by Jezebel, and the prophets had to hide in caves. You look in Revelation 12, verse 6. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God that they should feed her there 1,260 days. That's not only for the 3.5 prophetic years of the Dark Ages, but some wonder, will that be reproduced again at the end of time? Maybe, not sure. It's interesting to note that in the book of Esther, the book of Esther is divided in the beginning into 2 3.5-year periods. Notice, Esther chapter 1, verse 2 through 4. In those days, when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which is in Shushan, the citadel, that in the 3rd year of his reign, he makes a feast for all his officials and servants, the powers of Persia, for many days, 180 days in all. Well, the Jewish year had 360 days. 180 is half of that. That again is exactly 3.5 years. And then 3.5 years, well, after the first 3.5 years, Vashti is deposed. 3.5 years later, exactly, Esther is chosen, and then Haman tries to destroy the Jewish nation. There's a law to annihilate all of God's people. It's kind of a parallel to the last days. 3.5-year period. You look in Acts chapter 8, verse 1, and it says, at that time there was a great persecution that arose, following the stoning of Stephen, exactly 3.5 years after Christ, in 34 AD. Great persecution. Stephen is stoned. The disciples are scattered everywhere throughout Judea and Samaria, preaching the word. And then you look in Revelation 11, verse 3, and I'll give power to my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy 1,260 days. 1,260 days, 42 months, a times, and the dividing of a time, 3.5 years, it's all the same time period. It all adds up the same. So they're prophesying during a persecution during 3.5 years. And you also find in Daniel 12, another 1260 time period is mentioned. So many wonder if this persecution, the small time of trouble, will be about 3.5 years. All right, at the end of the time when God's people are making their final push for the gospel and people